I honestly think I figured this whole mess out. It's a charade that's been playing out. Comey said this, Trump said this, Trump did this, Comey took notes on this. Trump, after reading 7 pages of Comey's testimony, we're going to hear it tomorrow, you realize that Trump is unorthodox. He's not a regular politician, and maybe a longtime career FBI director, intel guy, is used to dealing with politicians. He wasn't used to some of the conversations with a Donald Trump who's unorthodox and not a politician. But then he can't go so far, and Comey can't go so far as to say there was obstruction of justice, nor was there interference, nor any request to look the other way on an investigation.
Let me ask you a question.
Which tells me if he's not willing to make that leap of faith, I'm not sure why we all should be.
Well, I don't know what he is or is not going to do, but let me ask you, if Bill Clinton said to Loretta Lynch, I hope you can let this Hillary thing go, would you be saying the same thing?
Kat, he did on 4 separate occasions said that he was never asked to end the investigation by Donald Trump. So, he said there were 4 discussions, but never once did Trump ask him to end the investigation.
So, Ebony, is he how he gets out of that, saying, oh, well, this was about Flynn, but it wasn't about Russia in general? Is that how he could get out of those previous statements?
Of course that's how he can get out of it. That's the issue, right, Kat? And I mean, look, here's the thing. Eric knows how I stand on it. But he's right on this, Kat. Ultimately, there's nothing that makes a legal conclusion of collusion, a legal conclusion of being asked to stop the investigation. And it doesn't even seem like Comey, Kat, is going to testify to that. So absent that, we've got Comey uncomfortable, Comey not liking it, Comey not being used to it, but we don't have something that amounts to obstruction.
Well, of course, Comey wouldn't want to do that because then he'd be incriminating himself. That makes sense to me, at least.
Well, yes, it seems as if Comey, even in his communication with us, he was rather intimidated by the president. I mean, for a man to go to another man and say,
a tall man, a very, very tall man.
Don't leave me alone in the room with him, as if he's very intimidated by him. I mean, to be honest, Comey should have just had the stones to refuse and, or either say, I don't want to speak to you alone, take somebody with me, rather than to just, it seems like Comey is the head leaker out here. How's your own testimony leaked the day before you even testify?
I wonder, Ebony, does this kind of interfere with Trump's live tweeting plans tomorrow or not?
I would imagine so. I also don't know how happy President Trump was that this kind of rained on the parade. We're going to talk about it certainly in the show, about the announcement of his nominee to be the new FBI director, because that was kind of the news story of the day.
Let's also not forget, Andrew, that this was a big smoking gun, that James Comey took extensive extemporaneous notes, and one of the notes he took was after a meeting with Donald Trump, or after a dinner with Donald Trump. Washington Post and the New York Times went ballistic about this, saying, hey, we got him now. We got him because there's an extemporaneous notes. I'm reading this, and he talks about the notes he takes after these meetings, and every single one of these meetings and the notes he talks about, none of them rise to the level of illegality, nor impeach, high crimes and misdemeanors.
Well, I think that the president had a good day today, and we'll have a good day tomorrow, because at the end of the day, there's really nothing here. You read Comey's letter, which I read quickly before we went on the air, and I don't see anything that specifically says that he deliberately tried to impede the investigation. So I think that if you look at James Clapper in Australia yesterday, he said that this is the worst scandal since Watergate. What scandal?
Can we do that? I think we have that soundbite. Can you do that, producers? You have that soundbite of Clapper?
Looks like it was just up there.
Here it comes. Glad you asked for it, Andy.
I think, compare the two, that Watergate pales, really, in my view, as compared to what we're confronting now.
I think that comparisons to how it's the same or different than Watergate always have been and always will be useless, just because no matter what's happening, who cares? I care what's happening now. It's not going to be the exact same or exact different. Who cares?
And by the way, insane to compare the two. And, in Watergate, you had people admitting guilt to crimes.
Yeah.
We had actual crimes in Watergate. This, so far, as Hillary would call it, a nothing burger.
You know what? I want to say this. Here, Jim Comey does it again. Gives us a bunch of buildup, right? Just like we saw with the Hillary investigation. So much buildup. Everyone from both sides with their popcorn, with bated breath, as the kids say, where's the tea? Where's the tea? And how anticlimactic, right, Kat? I mean, this is such a moment where people from the left, people from the right have such anticipation as to what's going to come out of Jim Comey's mouth. And if these 7 pages are any indication, I suspect not very much.
To an extent, yes. There are things about it that bother me. I'm not saying that they reached the level of obstruction.
What bothers
Again,
you?
as
I'm
we've
just
already,
curious.
well, it's inappropriate to even suggest about, stopping an investigation. It could be very well be that Trump was doing that for personal reasons, and then you get out of it because Comey said he wasn't doing anything previously for political reasons, which makes those two different. I'm really interested to see how the testimony goes tomorrow. Still, there's people who are going to be trying really, really hard to make this an obstruction thing. It's certainly not a collusion thing.
Can I ask the pastor something? Let me ask you this, Pastor. So many people, and we talked about this a bit on the program yesterday, this issue of the independence of the FBI and how historically that has been an independent part of the executive branch, not to be usurped by even the sitting United States president. So much in what Kat talks about in terms of disturbing and uncomfortable, I think is Comey describing what he feels was the president trying to maybe intimidate him out of that objectivity, out of that independence. What say you to that claim of that level of intimidation? And if so, is that appropriate?
Well, with Comey having been retained by President Trump, he would expect a certain degree of loyalty and commitment to his administration simply because I chose to retain you, when everyone suggested for him to fire him. And I think he thought long and hard about it. But I also believe that Mr. Trump is not afraid to rectify what he believes are mistakes. So rather than saying I shouldn't have hired Comey in the first place, he just fired him. But I think he shouldn't have hired him in the first place.
Well, and then do you think the fact that he did fire Comey after this conversation says anything about people might use that also? I mean, I don't think it's fair to call it a complete nothing burger. There's certain things that I have questions about.
Like what?
But it's not,
Like
I'm not saying it's a clear case.
Maybe it's a lettuce burger.
Yeah, it's like a
Okay, so it's a vegan chicken burger.
Comey seems like he's become the martyr now for the Democratic Party, though.
And so
He's a martyr. Now, when did James Comey become a martyr?
James Comey, prior to this, was first of all, he was beloved by the Republicans when he said Hillary Clinton should be. I'm sorry. First of all, he was beloved by the Democrats when he said, "Oh, there should be no indictment," right? Yep. And then he was hated by the Democrats and loved by the Republicans when he said, "Yeah, but let's look into these email scandals because we found some on Anthony Weiner's," right? So he's been back and forth, back and forth. He's been the political animal over the last 6 months. He's getting what he deserves.
I believe he's going to get a good book deal out of it.
All right. Well, up next.